Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Wanted to thank everybody for joining the July Oregon 2024 Oregon CCA Zoom call. We're excited tonight to have Dell Stevens, aka Tuna Dog. Dell, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed, indeed. So a lot of people know Dell, been around. Dell he's a life member for CCA. He was also a former board member, state board member with a Tualatin Valley chapter. He's had his fingerprints all over a number of the different banquets that we've had in the area or fundraising events. Dell was one of the founding members, a chairman of the Oregon Tuna Classic, which became the largest charity-based fishing tournament on the West Coast. Also extremely popular is the Lipstick Salmon Slayer Tournament. He's a co-owner, tournament director. Shares that with his wife, Weddy, Megan Glass, an incredibly popular tournament that happens every year. It's going to be on August 17th this year. I saw in some of the notes that it's the second largest women's fishing tournament in the United States. So not just on the West Coast. So I know Dell's got some stuff he can share to promote that. I was trying to find a video to share. I found a really cool one on Facebook, but unfortunately I couldn't make it bigger for my screen, but it's something that everybody should go out and take a look. The Lipstick Salmon Slayer Facebook page has that video. Looks like a lot of fun. But again, Dell, hey, appreciate you being here. Love to hear a little bit of what you have to share about tuna and kind of what got you to where you're at. So,
I'm pretty much still a salmon fisherman, have been growing up, but one year I heard there was tuna in Brookings, and I grabbed a buddy and we went down there, and I used to guide up on Odell Lake for the lake trout Mackinac and kokanee and through the early part of the summer, and then off to the coast from July on, and grabbed that buddy. We took that inboard jet sled I had and went to Southern Oregon, and we wound up catching 5 tuna that day and ruining 4 reels, I should say. And boy, was I hooked. And it was an exciting venture and learned a lot. And at that time, there was nobody teaching how to catch tuna. And I used a little bit of knowledge I had from fishing Central America. And over time, things progressed. When we started the Oregon Tuna Classic, there were still very few fishermen that were fishing tuna offshore. And we brought a lot of attention to that offshore fishery over the years. And Duckworth and Wellcraft made comment that that was one of the things that helped keep them sold out of offshore boats for quite a few years there. So they were one of our good sponsors. But and then it kind of progressed. And when I met my wife and married her in 2000, she had only been on a fishing boat one time in her life. And it was on a lake. And so I initiated her by putting her in a big boat offshore first to see how she would like it, and then kind of progressed back to a smaller boat. But she took it up pretty good. Taught her pretty much everything she knows, and she's enjoyed it. Enjoyed being a good fishing partner, yeah, she's been a good student. She's caught 800-pound bluefin tuna and released them in 2 hours. And that's just pure technique to land a fish like that in 2 hours. So, but I stepped down from the Oregon Tuna Classic in 2017 and was burned out running that. And no sooner did I step down from that, I got talked into running a ladies tournament, and Weddy and Megan and I agreed to go ahead and start that up, and we had about 150 ladies the first year, and it grew significantly every year after that. And we started in the Armory in Astoria there and outgrew that real quick, and now we're out at the Clatsop County Fairgrounds. We had a little over 800 people in there last year.
Wow.
But yeah.
Well, and not to go too fast with the Oregon Tuna Classic, you were the founding member, one of the founding members, and then you were running that for 15 years prior to stepping down.
I did, yeah.
So
I grew that into 4 events, and all up and down the coast, and from El Waco to Garibaldi, Newport, and Charleston. And and it became real significant. And wow. Every 2 weeks we were having a tournament, and every 2 weeks we were having to deal with the wind waves and Mother Nature's forecast. And boy, when when you have a tournament that you can't fish, you got to figure out another way to get the people to the event, you know, and if you have things going on like raffles and auctions. And so that was a learning curve, trying to figure out how to get people to the event, even though we knew they weren't going to be able to fish. So,
Well, that's awesome. Well, I know
yeah,
it's a lot of work to put on a little banquet. We do our chapter banquets. I can't imagine something on that scale. So
Mhm.
kudos to you for that, for growing it to that point. So, and then the lipstick slayers. I mean, I've seen where we've had some seats donated to our state banquets, and I mean those things are incredibly popular. How much those
Mhm.
things sell for. So, high demand to get into that. And so, I saw that your cash prizes, maybe they change each year, but I think that first place is like $4,000.
It
Second
is.
place was a 2,000. Third place is $1,000. I mean, that's a nice thing to walk away with after catching a good sized fish. So,
Well, the big fish pot last year was 6,500.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, and that was half of what the money was put into it. So that's, it's only a $50 pot. So that's how many people
Hmm.
actually signed up for it. But yeah, we do that event on a little bit different level than we did Oregon Tuna Classic, because Megan and I own that event. Weddy and I cash flow that event, and so we bring in the audiovisual people that do the sports show here in Portland. We have them put huge 20-foot screens on both sides of the stage and drape the stage, and we run those big screens up there, and we'll run the live auction on that, as well as video, the sponsors, the top sponsors, and through a loop, and we drape the tables with linens, and the raffle tables are draped as well. And then we go all out on the live auction. We have some mystery coolers that people are now used to, those mystery coolers, and there's two of them, and they're about 100 quarts a piece, but you never know what's going to be in those coolers in the live auction. And there might be a chart plotter, could be a gun, could be an exotic trip to Costa Rica or Alaska or someplace. Last year they went for $8,800 a piece.
Oh my.
Yeah. So people are kind of getting used to knowing that I really stuff them full of stuff, and there's always going to be a good value in them.
Well, I'd seen some YouTube videos where, I mean, there's people that are traveling from afar to come to this tournament. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any details as to how far away are you guys getting participants to come to the tournament from?
We have a few ladies from Nevada, a few ladies from Idaho, a few from Montana. The bulk of them are from Oregon and Washington. A lot of them in the Seattle, Fife area, and up in that area that come down. And then we've got ladies from Southern Oregon that are coming up, that are down in Roseburg, Coos Bay area. But yeah, this event was pretty much, we've been asked a number of times, what charity do we support on this event? This event is not a charity event. This event is the focus and the design and setup of this whole event is to provide a platform for the ladies.
Mhm.
Us guys have had tournaments for years, and you see very few ladies, ladies only tournaments. So that was the focus when we set it up, was to provide them a platform and then make it shine. So that
Yeah,
way
you
they'd have
you sh
fun.
you shared in one of your stats that in 2022 there were 54 million people who went fishing, and 36% of those were women. So I mean that's a
Yeah.
lot of women to not get representation. So
Yeah.
explains the demand.
That comes from the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, which supplied that information to American Sport Fishing Association back at ICAST a few years back. And that continues to be, the women in the outdoor market make up 40% of the growth. And that has been the same for about the last 5 years now. And retailers that address that do fairly well, but there's still a lot of retailers that don't think the women are significant and don't address it, and they're just leaving money on the table. We have women buying their own boats that are competing in this tournament. So
Well,
yeah, and not small boats. They're buying big offshore boats,
as a
three,
as a mountain,
$400,000 boats.
sorry. I'm a banquet chair for the Mount Hood chapter, and one of the pieces of feedback I get every year, we need more for the ladies, and so
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be something that we're continuing to try and keep a focus on. What additional can we bring in, for that exact reason. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, and we do the same thing with our raffles and our live auction. I'll have a custom hunting rifle in there. Last year, I had a 300 Winchester short mag, something that is still a great big game rifle, but not going to whop the tar out of them with the recoil. One year I had a 6.5 PRC, and then we also have a handgun that's called by Kimber. It's called a Lady Bel Air, and it's stainless steel with a little bit of turquoise and white pearl grips. And we'll put that in there with a pearl bracelet draped over it. And that thing we've had it in there a couple of times. It goes for a ton of money. It's pretty popular.
So the event's coming up quick. It's August 17th. So, is there a cap? I mean, if somebody doesn't have a ticket and they want to go, do they need to?
There is a cap. We will cap it at 450 on the ladies, and or we'll close it August 1st.
Okay.
We're probably close to it by now. Normally, we're pretty close to it by about the second or third week of July.
And Dale, what is that email address or the website address? It was
lipsticksalmonslayers.com.
Put that into the chat so everybody can see it. I need to do it uppercase, but yeah. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us about the Tuna Dog. Where did Tuna Dog come from? I know there's people on here that would love to, glean some knowledge from you. Got some people that I know that have gone down to, San Francisco or San Diego to do some bluefish tuna. So
I have fished tuna all over the world. I've caught all of them but 2 species, and I still have that yet to go on my bucket list, and intend to get that checked off. But I think from just fishing all the different tunas, somebody referenced me as that one time, and it just kind of stuck. And so I ran with it and named my boat that. And it's just kind of been with me ever since. But before pandemic, I was given 30 to 40 tuna seminars a year, and I probably taught 65 to 70% of the tuna fishermen in Oregon and Washington and Northern California how to tuna fish over the years. But now I give about 10 to 15 seminars, but they're bigger events. They typically have more people and special type promos, that retailers like Inland Marine puts on, or somebody else. I enjoy teaching tuna and enjoy learning different tactics and I'm 66 years old, and you think as old as I am, I probably wouldn't be so eager to learn new techniques, but I'm constantly trying new stuff out. And if it's one thing I've learned is a tuna is a tuna anywhere in the world with regards to their feeding habits, but at the same time, they're like an ultimate predator. And if it moves or swims in the water, they'll eat it. So you can play with a lot of different things, and they'll eat a lot of different things. I've seen them eat a quick fish. So they actually tore that apart.
So are there some basics that you can share? I mean, if somebody was just interested in getting into tuna fishing, what do they need to know?
Most of the people start out by troll. That's the easiest, and it's the least expensive. And a lot of people will try to use their halibut rods. Typically, those are stout enough, and you need a rod that the length of it doesn't matter, but you need a rod that's stout enough to land the fish, but the reel is the critical component. And you can't use a reel with a line guide on it. It'll be peeling line off so fast. Most of them, it'll tear the gearing out of them. And so an open face reel that holds 300 yards of like 65-pound braid or heavier, and then a good test rated swivel on the end, and then finding some tuna clones, and most of the time a Mexican flag tuna clone, or a zucchini colored, or pink and white, or purple black, are your 4 basic colors that most people will use. And you put them out behind the boat and start trolling in an area, and typically an area that's maybe a green water, blue water transition area. The water, it could be green, but as long as it's clean green water, and as long as it's 58 degrees or higher, then it's a good place to start, especially if it's on a transition. If you can see that transition area and the water starting to clear up a little bit. And tuna love to eat, but they also love fresh, clean water, like in the blue water. But they'll move back and forth between the blue water and the green water. So as long as you fish along those areas, most of the time you'll find the tuna. But and then trolling techniques. If one rod goes off, keep trolling for 7 to 10 seconds. See if you can load them all up, and that'll get you hooked on tuna real quick when you hear the singing of the reels, and you get 2 or 3 or 4 fish on at a time, and then once you do that, a lot of times you'll want to progress to, hey, I want to learn how to fish the iron, and that requires a little more finesse and more gear, and I've been accused of ruining marriages a few times and bank accounts, and it's not a cheap sport by no means. Just if you're just a trolling tuna fisherman, which is nothing wrong with that, yeah, you're probably saving a little bit of money. But if you get into live bait and iron, now all of a sudden your rod and reels are a lot more expensive, and you have a lot more of them, and it's just a whole different game.
Can you
So,
expand on what you mean by fishing iron? I'm not intimate with that.
fishing iron is a lead jig that's been painted, and most of the time, if you open up a tuna fisherman's jig bag, most of those jigs are going to be pink and silver, or a combination of pink, silver, and blue, and it'll have a asymmetrical shape to it. It'll flutter when it goes down, and then it'll take a special action to bring it up. Bass fishermen will call it walking the dog type action, and reeling and pumping and bringing it up, and it'll dart and jig, and the tuna will grab it.
So you're jigging for them essentially.
Oh yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just a painted lead jig. So, requires a special reel and high speed and a parabolic rod. And the rod and reel are very unique to making the jig work properly. I've had writers come out and do articles with me and bring rod and reels and try to use their stuff to begin with, and then they have to start using my stuff, and typically I cut their jigs off and put them on one of mine and try their jigs, and a lot of times they work, and it's just the rod and reel they bring is just not going to work.
Gotcha.
So,
Jim, you got your hand up?
Yeah, just curious, though. What are the 2 species of tuna that you have not caught?
Well, dogtooth is one of them, and big eye's the other one.
Ah,
So I've been looking at going to Fiji or the Maldives or the Great Barrier Reef for the dogtooth.
yeah.
And my wife, she wants to go to the Great Barrier Reef, so we're looking at that.
Hey, happy wife, right?
Yeah.
And the
she'll
big
be going
eyes,
with me.
where do you pursue the big eyes?
Probably off New Jersey. That's the biggest concentration most of the time. It may require a couple of times because I could probably wind up with a trip where I get a bunch of yellowfin tuna, but no big eye, and
Right.
so, but that I'm okay with that. So
Interesting. Thank you.
yeah. So I'll have to commit to it 1 year, because typically the best time to do that's about the same time I'm running these tournaments out here, and right after that in September. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, so good point as far as like the fish run timing. When are the ideal times to be targeting going out?
For albacore, traditionally we say the 4th of July is kind of the kickoff. This year they showed up the week before the 4th of July. In 2007 they showed up in June 13th, and but last couple of years it's been typically still around the 4th of July. There's a really good bite going out there this last week. They're here in good numbers already. I know of boats that have been loading them up, but so it looks like it's going to wind up being a really good fishery this year.
And then typically, how long does that fishery run?
1 year I was still fishing them on November 7th,
Okay.
and there was only 4 boats because everybody else was off hunting, and once Labor Day comes around, people's mode changes. Kids are back in school, hunting season starts, and you see less people running offshore for albacore. But that's some of the best fishing is in September and October. But traditionally, Halloween's kind of about it. There's still a few of us doing it. Like I said, that 1 year was November 7th, there was 4 of us, and they were thick and they were close. It was flat. Water was still warm. They were only 20 miles offshore. They were really thick, boiling everywhere around the buoy off Ilwaco. So the weather buoy out there.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I was gonna ask. I see the boats flying out when we're fishing out at Buoy 10, and I always
Mhm.
kind of wondered how far out do they have to go. So about
Right
20
now they're running
miles.
50 miles. The water traditionally will move in for a couple of weeks and the fish will move in with them. They could be in 25 to 30 miles at one point. And the guys off, Bruce Pauly and those guys off Pacific City fishing their dories, the 600 fathom curve comes in closer there. So a lot of times they only run like 15, 20 miles to get into them.
Hmm.
And so it's easier. Off Depot Bay, they don't run very far. So it depends on where you're at. Charleston, they're pretty close. So on the norm. But for us, it's typically a 40 to 50 mile run most of the time.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay. Are there some good guides? I mean, if somebody wanted to get it, is there any guides that you'd recommend that would
You
be
know, there really is. They're the last 3 or 4 years have gotten to be quite a few really good guides. Kevin Newell runs out of El Waco. He's a great guide. He runs a 36 yellowfin. Shake and Bake out of El Waco is hard to book because they're booked up a lot, and they focus a lot on live bait. That's a 42-foot boat, comfortable. And then Gordy Webster runs Black Dog out of Hammond, and he's a really good guide. Those are, three of the better ones out of our area, El Waco, and then you move down to Garibaldi, and you've got El Jefe down there, and a few others. But Garibaldi Charters is pretty good. And then Scott McKinney has a boat down there. He runs a Rampage that's really good. You've got about 3 or 4 in there as well that are pretty good. And then the guys at Depot Bay, and then you move on down. I don't know any of the people at Newport anymore, but Charleston's got a few down there. So, but yeah, there's plenty of people. Westport, Mark Coleman's crew is one of the best up there. All Rivers Guide Service.
okay? And
Yeah.
all the way up the Washington coast. I mean, if you were to go up
These
towards,
fish will run all the way up into Southeast Alaska.
okay.
Some of the salmon guys will get them in their gear up in Sitka. So these fish come across typically north of the Bay Area, and they're a counterclockwise rotation, and they'll move up the coast over time and up through Southeast Alaska and rotate back around off to Japan. And once they're about 4 and 5 year old fish, they never come back. They will migrate down into the South Pacific, the Midway Islands area to spawn and stay down there. Now, the albacore that Southern California gets, their fish are in a clockwise rotation. We never see those fish. They come across generally below the Bay Area in a clockwise rotation and migrate on down a little bit into Mexican waters and then back around as well. So, but their migration has been fished hard over the years, and they don't have near the kind of albacore numbers we do. So.
And you were sharing with me earlier that we should be seeing an increase in bluefin tuna. How far north do you think those will come?
They'll go all the way up into Southeast Alaska as well. The bluefin tuna in 2009, the biomass on the West Coast was at its lowest point it's been in more than 100 years. And the Mexicans were taking them, the Japanese were taking them. And but the biggest impact was the bluefin tuna spawn real close to Japan. And the Japanese seine fleet was taking over 80% of the small juvenile bluefin. So they never even had a chance to migrate across to the US. They typically migrate when they're 1 to 2 years old. And it took till 2016 for the United States to get a treaty with Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China, and Mexico to change their habits. And the biggest one being Japan, and not seine net these fish. And that's made a huge difference. The most dramatic difference has been seen in Southern California's bluefin, but we're starting to have bluefin come up the West Coast now. I have a buddy that had 44 of them last year off San Francisco, and another boat had 20. And some of the boats, Fort Bragg and Eureka area in California, were getting them as well. And we've been seeing them up here, and but nobody knows how to fish them. And I've done 2 seminars now on how to catch big bluefin, and our bluefin tuna typically are going to be 4 to 5 year old fish at most. And a 4 to 5 year old bluefin, Pacific bluefin, is only going to get to maybe 300 to 350 pounds. before he migrates, he goes back across and he doesn't come back. He starts spawning. So for us to catch or land a big one, 200 to 300 pound fish is probably going to be rare. The fish those people are landing down there in Southern California, 100, 200 pound fish. Once in a while, they get one over 300. The guys in the Bay Area, their average fish is about 130. So,
But you're thinking that each of the next couple of years, it should just continue to get better and better for the bluefins coming up Oregon as a result.
yeah. I just read an article here recently that the 10-year plan for the Pacific bluefin, they were already well ahead of where they were supposed to be 10 years into the plan.
Wow.
Yeah, they're rebounding that fast. Now, I fish the giant Atlantic bluefin on the East Coast every other year, and I remember when I first started, it's been quite a few years ago, I was catching 100 to 150 pound and occasional 200 pound fish. And on that one trip I did, I caught 10 one day and 8 the next day, and all by myself. And they were 100 to 150 pound fish with an occasional 200 in there. Fast forward up to the last 5-6 years, and now our average is probably 400 to 450 with an occasional 500 to 800 pounder in there. But the last time I was out and we fished 5 days, and we had 18 bluefin. My wife landed an 800 pounder. Megan landed an 800 pounder. I had one over 700. We had a couple over 500. And then our smallest fish was 186 pounds. It was the only one we keep. So, but, and that was off North Carolina in March. So that North Carolina fishery out of the Outer Banks is really good. That's where the Wicked Tuna guys are filming most of their shows. In the early part of the season, they'll be down there off the Outer Banks. They'll be staying in Manteo or Oregon Inlet. So they're out there fishing. We're out there.
So that Wicked Tuna season, when did that typically kick off? Is that also in
they typically kick off like in January and February. First window days they get, they'll be out there. This year, they're commercial fishermen. And even though they're filming a TV show, they have to abide by the commercial fishing regulations. Well, they hit their quota this year in mid-February. Normally they don't hit it till like mid to late March. So it's all based on tonnage. And it was a big quota and they still hit it. That's just how fast those bluefin tuna, they come back. They respond and rebound really well. If they're managed properly, yeah, their numbers will grow a lot. So,
well, I know we've got some tuna fishermen on the call, so if anyone has any questions for Del, I'd ask, raise your hand. Would love to throw some questions his way. So,
another thing you're going to see out here is people catching swordfish at some point. That fishery has yet to be developed. We have a lot, and the commercial guys have gotten them, and they get them by accident in their nets. So, in 2003, there was over 200,000 pounds of them landed between Charleston and El Waco, with El Waco being where the only buyer was that could buy them. And that's how they have data on them. And those fish were they were bycatch in the nets in the top 50 feet of water being caught at night. So.
Wow. How close did this come in?
What's that?
How close will the swordfish come into the?
Most of them are going to be typically 25 to 50 miles out. They're going to be in the bottom, the contours of the bottom, typically where there's a drop off into a canyon, and then you've got a flat spot, coming up out of the canyon. Basically, they're going to be where the tuna are, and they'll be feeding off the tuna as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Jim, you got a question?
Yeah, I kind of joked with my buddy when with the king salmon, the Chinook, and being so depressed that I joked that we'll be fishing for mahi and marlins off the Oregon coast with these currents and warm temperatures. But in reality, I remember whatever it was 3 or 4 years ago where there were 3 marlins brought into Garibaldi. Do you see the trend of those southern fish moving further north with the way the oceans are warming and
we are seeing that. Yeah, you're going to see more of those. You're going to see more of the mahis. You're going to see more of the yellowtail. Yeah.
I was out in the ocean with Tim Orez a couple, maybe last year, way out there at 200, and we were catching little baby yellowtails, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
They're just, yeah, they were out there with the mackerels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year we had a lot of mackerel out there.
Yeah,
That's
tons of
kind
it.
of thing those bluefin will come in and feed on too, is those mackerel. They're a nice size. Yeah, some of the skippers that I know out on the East Coast, they think our bluefin tuna are feeding on our salmon that are staging to come into the rivers. It's not uncommon for a bluefin tuna to move into shallow water to feed and then move back offshore a ways to digest. And we were fishing them one year in 18 feet of water off the Hatteras Lighthouse. 18 feet of water, and it was 49 degrees. We were pitching
Dang.
pop. 3 hours
So,
later, we were in 6,000 feet of water in the Gulf Stream where it was 72 degrees.
so as incidental catches now, the more tropical fish, if you will, are mostly caught as incidental catches. But to, for instance, like the bluefin, what's going to be the change or techniques that people are going to start catching on to get into those?
One, they're going to have to dedicate a rod and have a rod specific for that, or they're going to have to dedicate the day to chase them. And the rods they're going to have to use up here are what they call a rail rod, and it's designed to lay on the side of the gunnel and get chewed up by the gunnel. So it has to be capable of handling that. And the forearm piece on a rail rod is typically longer because of that in how you're using it, versus a heavy duty trolling rod that has a short butt and a short forearm piece on it. But it'll be anywhere from 7 to 8 feet long, and you'll have a reel kind of like a Saltiga 60 two-speed reel, lever drag reel that might have you know almost a mile of line on it of 80-pound braid, and but and then you'll put a wind-on leader on it with some fluorocarbon and tie it directly to a lure. One of the main lures a lot of people are using is made by Nomad. It's called a Mad Max in the 200 size, and they'll take that. There's 2 hooks on that thing. They both look like they're great big circle hooks, but they take the trail hook off and they'll put a 5X treble hook on there, and but yeah, if they typically strike that, they typically don't come off. They're hooked.
It'll be dedication to go after them then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they'll have to dedicate, and most of the time they're putting them way, way, way back, 800, 900,000 feet behind the boat. But versus your albacore trolling gear is only going to be between 30 and 75 feet behind your boat. So
yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. But until people start seeing them boiling or they start seeing more numbers, people aren't going to really pursue that much.
Yeah. Randy, you had your hand up as well? Randy, you have to come off mute.
Yeah, I'll have to learn technology. I just had a question about, you said you can only keep a couple of those big ones on the east side. How come you had to release the like the 800 and the 700 pounder over there?
Actually, yeah, you're only able to keep one fish in the slot limit per day, and the slot limit is 50, I believe, 52 to 73 inches. But you can keep one of the giants if you're on a charter boat. If that charter boat has not landed their their giant fish for the season, they're only allowed one. So, but we're fine keeping small guys, and they're better eating and releasing the big guys. So we filmed that one for a show and had a good time with it. But for us, it's more about hooking them, and we typically catch enough of them. So, but yeah.
It take a couple hours to land a fish like that, you're sharing?
If on an 800 pounder, if you don't have proper technique, you're never going to land it. And but with good proper technique, 2 hours. So Megan landed a 450 in 37 minutes one day.
Wow.
So yeah, just doing proper technique real fast.
So I
So,
was gonna say, can you share kind of what are the tenets of proper technique here?
well, for one, you need to be in decent shape because you are strapped to this fish and you're not strapped to the boat at all. You're in what they call a bucket harness, and the harness is strapped to the rod, and you've got a giant reel there, and it's monofilament, it's not braid, and you need to wear some gloves because you are going to get a blister. Even with the gloves, you might get a blister, but typically you're sitting on a flat surface, what most people think is a fighting chair, but it's just a flat surface there. And as you slide forward, bending your knees to slide forward, the rod's going to go down. You're typically going to reel, try to get some slack on, and then you're going to push with your legs. You want to push slow and steady. If you push fast, a lot of times the line will come back off the reel. Slow and steady to lift the rod, and then real slow and steady as you slide forward to try to gain some line on that. And most time, once you get proficient at it, you'll be shifting between high speed and low speed, and low speed when it gets tough. And the one thing you never want to do is you never want to stop reeling. If you stop reeling, you and that fish, he's resting while you're stop reeling. And so you'll never land that fish in 2 hours if you just stop and rest, and it's just not going to happen.
And stay on them. Alex, you had your hand up? Oh, you're on mute. Alex, you're on mute. There you go.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
There we go.
There we go. Dale, how are you? It's good to see you.
Likewise.
Thanks for coming on and sharing some time with us.
Yeah.
You and I we go way back. I met you probably 20 years ago. And I remember when I first started working with you, I was most amazed about your ability to just seemingly have endless energy and the ability to go, 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 go. And here you are 20 years later, and you're still doing it. How the heck do you do it?
Yeah. I tell you, yeah, I'm 66 now, and most of the time I feel like I'm in my 40s, but being active and exercising does help. I still work out 3 times a week, and I don't know if I'd be able to land a fish like that if I didn't. I can tell you the last time we were out there and we caught those 18 fish in 5 days, I was in really good shape, and Weddy and Megan, all 3 were, but it's 800-pound fish. You have to be in decent shape here if you're going to do that battle for 2 hours, 2 hours straight, no break.
No doubt.
Of not stopping reeling. So yeah, and anything over 400 pounds is a 2-hour battle most of the time. So, but yeah, I just, my mother, before she passed away, she asked me, she goes, when are you going to retire? And it's like, I don't have time to retire. I'm way too busy, and I'm kind of semi-retired from the shop, but I still work 1 or 2 hours a week, and I work more on tournaments now and other stuff. So,
well, if you love what you're doing, you're not working, right?
yeah, I
And that's what
enjoy
they
doing
say.
the tournaments. Over the years, as modestly as I can say this, we have gotten pretty good at running tournaments, and it's something I enjoy. So yeah, so in addition to the ladies tournament, I run another tournament, and I'm involved in helping the Waka Tuna Club Invitational as well as the Black and Gold tournament. So I have 4 tournaments I'm involved in, but
Wow.
only 2 I'm running. So, but yeah.
Well, thanks for everything you do for the whole industry around here. I think you've been able to put the spotlight on a lot of things that are going on out here, which helped us all.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. No.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
So I think the long-term effect with Dell doing all this work with these women's tournaments is that we're all going to have to up our game because they are so much better than we are. We are going to have to seriously, from experience, they listen, and then they've got a knack, and they just will crush us. So we need to get out there and do a little practicing. I'll keep telling my wife that I need to practice more. I think
Yeah,
it's
women,
great.
a lot of times the women are better learners because a lot of them don't have much experience, so they haven't had time to develop any bad habits, and
Yeah,
so they're like a sponge. They just soak it up when you're teaching them, how to do, what they're
Yeah.
doing, and I mean, they're just eager to learn, but yeah.
it's just a great thing. It's really.
Well, and you can see the women at the tournament, the ones that are fairly new at it. I mean, they are so excited. It's
I watched some of your videos from past events. They do get pretty excited.
oh yeah,
It's a different deal. Men
Yeah,
are just too cool.
yeah,
We're
they're a lot of
way too cool.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Dell, you shared the Dorado that's over your left shoulder there. I mean, that's your wife caught that fish, and
Hmm.
you shared that was tied for a world record. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So
Yeah, we were pre-fishing. My team had won a series of tournaments that qualified for the Offshore World Championships, and so we were down in Costa Rica, and we were pre-fishing 2 days before the tournament, and um, she landed that fish, and we didn't realize how big it was. We knew it was big because when the mate gaffed it, we had to grab him because it was taking off with him, and if we hadn't grabbed him, it would have taken him overboard. But then we got that fish on board. It's like, man, it wouldn't even fit in the fish box. And it's like, this thing is big. And
Wow.
being a member of IGFA, I logged on later during dinner but it was interesting. So yeah, that was 2013. So tied the
I
world.
got you up on a 36-inch monitor, so I'm looking at those pictures behind you.
Oh, my wall of fame.
Yeah, some good stuff back there.
Yeah, there's some pictures back there when I used to guide on Odell Lake for the Mackinac. But yeah, and then there's some tuna back there as well.
Oh.
My man cave needs to be bigger. My wife told me I could enlarge it, but
Nice.
I'd have to take another bay in the garage to do it. So I have an elk that's on the floor in the living room in the house that needs to go in here. Too big for the house.
it's a good problem to have. Jim, you had your hand up?
One last question, Dell, on a completely different subject. I was
All
a
right.
lucky winner to win the tarpon trip the year that we put it in the raffle with the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, COVID hit that year, I think. And then a year or two, I never did contact you or anything about it. And then a year or two later, one of the hurricanes totally wiped out Rio Grande down there.
Yep.
You have connection. That's one of my the number one bucket list fish in my world. I've been to Florida a couple times, but never had the chance at the right time of year. But has Boca Grande rebuilt? There was a big problem there on the Grand Island about they just got devastated down
They
there.
did. They were still limited occupancy last spring,
Wow.
last summer on Boca Grande at the Gasparilla Inn. They were still having to deal with that place. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Gasparilla Inn on Boca Grande, but this thing looks like something you'd see on, the first thing that comes to mind is the movie Dirty Dancing. They had the resorts up in the Catskills. This thing is got white pillars in the front. It has a Hemingway lounge that you have to wear collared shirts. You can't wear flip-flops. The croquet course out there, you have to wear whites. You have to wear whites on the tennis court, and they'll sell you whites, but you're not allowed out there unless you. I mean, it's very prim and very proper, and there's an amazing amount of culture and history there, and just to stay there and to see that community and see that place is amazing. And then the guide you want to fish with down there, there's guides who are really, really good at stuff. And there's guides who are in their own league. They're just elite, just their own. Danny Latham down there is one of those. And you just catch fish.
When I'm up for it, I'll contact you about those
You bet.
contacts.
Yeah, I
Thank
fished with him a number of times. This tarpon here in my man cave was one of 4 I caught before lunchtime, all in that 150-pound class. And
Out of Boca Grande there?
Yeah.
Out of that area?
Yeah, fishing with Danny.
And what's the time of year for that? I know down in the Keys it's a little earlier, but
most
when
of
do
the
they-
time in Boca Grande, most of the time, let me back up. Most of the time in Florida, you can fish tarpon as long as there's not a cold front. and because it'll chill the water down. If you have air temperatures 80 degrees or above, most of the time there's resident tarpon all over Florida. But the migration's in May, and I typically don't like to go down in May and late April and May because the migration comes through and so does the sharks following them. It's a lot tougher to hook a fish and land a fish when you have a shark chasing them, and it's just not as much fun.
Right.
So most of the time when I go down in right before I cast in late June or 1st of July, and fish them down there. Last year they had a heat wave like we have going here. They had one down there, and that was hot.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was really hot. And but because the breeze didn't come up until about noon, and the breeze blowing on the 80-degree water cooled it down in the afternoon. So it was cooler in the afternoons than it was in the mornings. And
Interesting.
yeah, but no, migration's in May, and that migration runs up and down that Gulf Coast down there. But if you can handle the weather, I like to go down in July. There's lots of resident fish around most of the time, and you don't have the crowd, you don't have the sharks, and
Yeah.
you don't have near as many people because it's off season.
Sure. Yeah, I've never been on the Gulf Coast. I've been on up and down Florida on the east side and Keys, but never on the
No,
Gulf.
there's some really pretty places. Sarasota is really pretty. A lot of
Yeah.
history and culture in Sarasota. The Barnum and Bailey Museum's there, and the Barnum's Mansion.
Learn
But,
from QuickTime Player.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dell.
you bet.
Group, now's your chance. Get some questions into Dale before the end of the call here. So any other questions?
Yeah, if you want to fish somewhere, I have fished all over the world, so in different times and all over South America.
Sounds like you lead a blessed life, sir. So that is awesome.
I did a lot of traveling before I met Weddy, and then after I met her, we've been trying to pick that back up and do a bunch as well, and we've been doing okay on it. So
Thanks. Randy, you've got a question.
Yeah, I've only been albacore tuna fishing twice already. And the
Mhm.
first time we got 26 pieces plus a mahi, and then the second time we only got 2. But I kind of want to transition into throwing iron. And what would be the best way to, I guess, transition? So, like for a beginner like myself, to start to try to catch them on the
Learn from
jig.
QuickTime Player.
Ooh, well, probably watching one of my videos. I have one video specific to working the iron on my website, tunadogoffshore.com. And then, because it shows you the type of rod, the type of reel, and Akuma, Shimano, and Daiwa for over-the-counter rods are probably, you can buy expensive ones. You can buy ones that get the job done. You'll spend $100 for a decent rod. So you could spend a couple hundred for once you get real good at it, but you may not need to. The reel is going to be the expensive part of that. A jig reel, a Daiwa Saltus 35 is probably going to be pushing $300. And any reel you use from any manufacturer is going to be close to $300 in the size you need to do it. Now, I'm going to reference Daiwa. In their reel size, it's like 10, 20, 30, 35, 40, 50. That 35 is a very narrow and tall reel and brings in 48 inches of line per turn on the crank. And that's what you want, is the narrow, tall reel. They're made specifically for jigging. And so you don't want to buy a size 30. You don't want to buy a size 40, thinking that it's going to get the job done. So you need to, whether you buy a Shimano or you buy an Akuma or whoever you buy, keep in mind that it's going to be a narrow, tall reel if you're buying the proper reel. And then spool it with 50-pound braid, put a 6 to 8 foot, 30 or 40-pound fluorocarbon top shot on it, and you're good to go. And then it's just a matter of getting the right jigs. So, and they need to be pink and white, or pink and white, or pink and silver and blue. So,
All right, thank you. Yeah, I just started a a little while ago building my own rod, so I'm looking forward to building some of these also.
Build yourself one that's parabolic that does not shut off. Absolutely does not shut off.
Okay.
I mean, that mean, where you can put the thing into a horseshoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been already eyeing them, and I'll probably put an order in. Most likely, obviously, it'll be for next year, but
Mhm.
just trying to get on track.
Well, and as you know, being a rod builder, the rods are getting skinnier and, tougher and more stout. And I mean, some of the slow pitch jig rods today are light as a feather. They're so little. I mean, they're pencil thin.
Yeah, I was given a railrod blank also to build, and man, that thing's like a broomstick.
Yeah. The big thing there is make sure you wrap the forearm piece where it's nice and long, and it also gives it a good long butt piece. That way they can lay it on the rail and they can use that as a pendulum on the rail without snapping the rod. So, because since most boats, small sport boats, don't have a fighting chair in them or even anything remotely close to that, they're going to be on the rail. They'll be down on their knees, but they'll be leaning up, and it'd be like doing squats with a rod butt up underneath your armpit. And so you'll flex your knees and squat to try to leverage that fish. And then as you come back up, using the fish for the weight that can bring you back up, so you can reel a little bit of line on. So they'll use it that way. And that's where it's going to, you want to make sure that, laying it on the rail like that, it's not going to flex and break. So, but yeah, and wrap it so that it can handle the getting chewed up on the rail. So,
Yeah, luckily I got a good mentor who's very familiar with pretty much most of the tuna rods and salmon rods.
mhm. Good. Yeah.
And so Dell, you shared that you've got some of those videos that are on your website, which is the www.tunadogoffshore.com. I put that URL in the chat. If anyone wants to go take a look at that, it sounds like there's some great resources there. For those watching the video, dog is DAWG, tunadogoffshore.com.
Actually, on there, dog is TOG. DOG.
Oh,
Tuna.
it is DOG.
Yeah, tuna dog.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Appreciate
did those
that.
videos for the Seattle Boat Show during pandemic the first year. They asked me, since we can't do presentations live, would you create some 50-minute videos and we'll buy them from you. And all right. So I did those in my man cave, and I didn't realize how popular they'd be.
Right on. Well, Dell, we sure appreciate you joining us tonight. A lot of great information that you shared, and certainly created some desire to get out there. A 2-hour fight doesn't sound too bad in my book, so that sounds awesome. No, I appreciate that wealth of
I appreciate
knowledge.
you guys having me.
Okay, thanks for all you do with the tournaments. Again, guys, Lipstick Salmon Slayer tournament. It's going to be on August 17th. Dale shared we're going to have a cutoff probably around the first of the month. So if it's something that you're interested in doing, please jump out there, go to that website to get registered. It's a great event. So with that, I know we've got a trivia question. Before we get to the trivia question, just want to go over a couple of things with the group. So one big congratulations to Julie Monroe Falk. She submitted a fantastic picture of a salmon that she caught at Winter Harbor fishing with a 360 flasher with a chartreuse hoochie. A reminder that every month we're giving away an edge rod, but you need to be a CCA member to participate. You're welcome to submit your photos, but they will go through and confirm that each of the people that are submitting those, that they are active members. So I love seeing what people are submitting, great pics. You guys are welcome to go back, see all the previous submissions. You can go to the website for the monthly photo contest. Just click on the button for previous submissions and you'll see what's been submitted. Also, we have our drift boat, still working on doing that drawing. It's going to be on December 7th. Tickets are $20 a piece. I want to say it's 6 for 100.
Yep.
But 6 for 100. Okay, so beautiful R&B boat that Jim Mickle gave to us. I think it's an 18-footer. It's a big boat, so it's going to treat somebody really well. Also, we've got some good events coming up on July 27th. the Willamette Falls, hosting their summer picnic. That's going to be down at McIver. We're going to have a barbecue. They're going to be hatchery tours. You can go down, see what's going on. They're also going to have, games set up for the kids, disc golf. They're going to have cornhole. And then I believe Dr. Kelsey Smith, who was one of our guest speakers a short while back that helped with the chum reintroduction program with ODFW. I'm seeing that she's going to be down there doing some speaking. So we loved what she had to share. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, please do. And then we've got some other events. Portland Golf Chapter going to have their 9-hole par 3 tourney barbecue auction at Colwood Golf Course on September 7th. So always a fun event, getting a few rounds of golf, and then go have a couple beers and celebrate our fish. And then the Columbia River Gorge Chapter, they're going to be doing their event on September 28th at the Columbia River Hotel in the Dalles. So lots going on. A good way to support your local chapters. Lots of stuff that we're doing as an organization. So appreciate everybody being here tonight. Hoping I didn't forget anything. Dawn, kick it your way for the trivia.
By the way, Dale, we rebroadcast this on our YouTube channel, and usually we're 6 to 8, sometimes 10x actual people that tune in. So we're learning that gets pretty good viewership. Our last, who was last month?
I can't remember yesterday.
I'm getting
Bruce.
Was it Chelsea?
Bruce Pauly. Yeah, Bruce
Paul.
Pauly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pauly got up to about 170 or 80 on the people watching the rebroadcast, and they are spending time with it. So it's been a nice addition to all this. Wade, do you want to explain, if there's anybody here that doesn't know how to do this, you want to explain how they come in
sure
with an
can.
answer?
So Dawn's going to have a trivia question for us, and what we'd like to have you do, pull up the chat console. If you're on a Windows-based workstation, you'll see three little dots that say more. If you click on that, you'll see a chat option. Also, I've been submitting chat, so hopefully you've got something blinking at you. But go ahead, when he provides the question, put your answer into that chat. I will then just begin reading them off, and when Dawn hears a winner, he'll let us know. But what are they going to win, Dawn?
But
Nice.
$50 gift certificate or card for AFCO. So you can go up online and order it. It's
Very
interesting because there's nothing, I think the least expensive thing is around $60 probably. So they kind of got you set. No, there's some other stuff. Okay, anyway, we'll mail this out. You'll just get your address to Wade and we'll go from there. All right. And so there's, how many species of tuna are there?
21.
How many?
21.
21. Okay. There's one species that's well known to be warm-blooded, which is pretty cool. Which one is it?
Albacore?
And Del, you can help me on this because I only know of one. If someone comes in as he's
There's only
reading-
one.
There's only one?
There's only one.
Albacore,
Okay,
bluefin.
cool.
No, not warm-blooded. There's only one.
All right, so we've had an albacore guess, we've had a bluefin guess.
Bluefin.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. I had no idea. But this little trivia site for tuna explains very well biologically how they can pull that off. But it's amazing stuff. Yeah, bluefin.
All right.
Yeah, that explains how they can be in 49-degree water first thing in the morning and 72-degree water 3 hours later.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know any salmon or steelhead that could pull that off.
Well, Mr. Kennedy's our winner, so I think you've got his address. So
Oh, this will be one more thing I won't give him.
Don,
there you go.
you can put it on my pile of stuff that
This is number 3 or 4, I think. Yeah.
The Portland
Hey,
Bakery's
Del.
getting bigger and bigger.
Dale, thanks for sharing all your information. Wish you a successful tournament, and I'm sure every lady out there will have fun and hopefully catch fish. So
All
thanks for
right,
being
thank
here.
you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Wade.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Thanks
guys.
for all your
Support,
work.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate
Have a
the
good night,
support.
guys.
All right.